Hello and welcome to Business Today Television. I'm Siddharth Zarabi and you're watching Easynomics. The pilot project to test India's digital rupee, and this one for retail users, began earlier today. Announced in this year's budget by the finance minister, the central bank digital currency is a major leap towards transparency in transactions. So what is a digital currency? How different is it from existing modes of digital payments, and what will it mean for you and me, the Indian consumer? Joining me to discuss that are two guests from the fintech industry, people who know the subject very well. Avinash Godkhindi, the managing director and CEO of Zaggle, and Deepak Kothari, the co-founder of FT Cash. Welcome to Business Today TV. Let me start with you, Avinash, for a simple FAQ kind of answer on what this digital rupee, the central bank digital currency, E Rupee, call it what you may, really means for the Aam Aadmi in some ways.
See, the concept is very simple. Today, we are all used to getting loyalty points from merchants. We're used to, using wallets where a wallet company has issued us a wallet and we are storing money there. Right? What RBI is saying is, why do you need these intermediaries? I could be your, quasi for a merchant. I could be your quasi for a wallet company. I will help you directly interface with me and engage with me and store money directly in my CBDC, right? And use it instead of cash. So the reasons why somebody continues to use cash is very varied. Okay, and some of it is to do with the fact that people feel that because cash is more fungible, because it is, there is no other intermediary which may collapse like a bank or a wallet company, so they feel more secure about it. So there are a lot of reasons why people continue to use cash. RBI is trying to just reduce those reasons more. And RBI also spends, thousands of crores every year just in managing physical cash, coins and
Right.
notes. And this will help RBI save on that. There's no other entity which bears that cost. I think it's running to thousands of crores when I last read 5,000 above 5,000 crores. So this would help RBI save that cost.
Okay. Deepak, I want to come to you. And again, when this was announced, a lot of people thought this was the government's cryptocurrency. Again, I'm talking about the average kind of layperson. Sarkar ka crypto aa gaya. And those were the kind of average comments. But those who understand the subject know that it's something different. What would you add to what Avinash said in terms of what the E Rupee really means?
Sure. Taking from what you said, Siddharth, right? Government ka crypto and what Avinash said about, right, the convenience of a digital e-rupee. I think all that was bad in crypto is removed in the government's digital currency. So basically, the note that is lying in your wallet, in your pocket, has now been converted into a digital form, which is stored directly with the Reserve Bank of India. So it provides you stability, something which, let's say, the crypto doesn't have today because it's decentralized. It provides you a finality that a transaction done on this is backed by the sovereign of that particular nation, in this case, the government and the Reserve Bank of India. I think to add to, just what E-Rupee is, I would say we're at the cusp of a new revolution, because what we are seeing is the launch of something which is going to spawn a lot of use cases. Like Siddharth mentioned, cash today suffers from the fact that it has a huge cost which is implied and not really understood. The cost of printing it, moving it from one place to another, the
Right.
cost of all of these issues, which will be done away with the e-rupee. Several use cases people have talked about, possibly you could have in the future stamp duty, where instead of you physically buying stamp paper, you're basically buying an e-rupee, because like each currency note,
Deepak, hold that thought for a moment, because you're giving us several sort of scenarios, and I want to distill it for the for the user. India is one of the largest markets for digital transactions by volume at least, while value is of course a debatable matter. And what you were telling us, the difference between rupee, the E Rupee and conventional crypto so-called currencies, the three key points, and this was just told to us viewers, I'll try and repeat them and we'll see if we can get them on the screen. Number one, it is legal tender. So there is no doubt about who is the issuer, ye kahan ka cryptocurrency hai. That word in fact was a misnomer in some ways, and in the recent past we have seen certain incidents which have taught many people very bitter lessons overseas. Second, backed by the central bank. So every note carries a promissory, a promise. So you can say the same thing for the E Rupee. The National Payment Corporation of India is involved. The RBI is basically the custodian, like it is the custodian of all currencies. And one more key point, the same value as the rupee. So the fluctuations that you see in crypto do not apply. So I would say that you have to be very clear in your mind. The E Rupee does not have anything to do with crypto at all. Avinash, taking that point forward with two more bits, and I don't want to make this a crypto conversation, so from my side this will be the last point. Crypto was not recognized by any central bank, so it was not fiat currency. There was a value that kept changing pretty much sometimes by the second really, and it was basically in private hands. So let's leave that apart. Question number one, and we'll try and do this in rapid fire. If my salary comes as a E Rupee, will it come into my bank account or will it lie in somewhere on the cloud and I will just pay from that cloud?
It will lie with RBI wallet, basically RBI powered wallet. The bank will be enabling it. Like today, Google Pay is enabling UPI. The bank is literally paying the banks that have been chosen, the first four banks that have been chosen to do this pilot. I think it's IDFC first, it's ICICI, it's SBI, and there's one more bank.
So yeah, good. Let's try and bring that up. Just pause for a moment, Avinash, and I'll request my producers if they can bring this important point. The participating banks in this pilot: State Bank of India, ICICI Bank, IDFC First Bank, Yes Bank.
Yes Bank.
And these are the four right there. There's a phase 2, Bank of Baroda, HDFC, Union Bank and Kotak Mahindra. So right now it's a pilot, viewers. It's not that it's happening with everyone. Continue with your point, Avinash.
Yeah, so the just to give a parallel to the UPI example, because all of us seem to be familiar with it. So today, just like you have a Google Pay or an Amazon Pay, which acts as an interface for you accessing the money that is sitting in your bank account, the role of the banks here is literally like a Google Pay or an Amazon Pay, right? And the role of your bank, which is holding your bank account and your salary, that role is played now by RBI, right? So that is the difference that is there. That tomorrow, God forbid, the bank where you are holding your salary account may go down, right? And we have seen instances of that in the past. But here your money is going to sit in a wallet, which is basically, as Deepak mentioned, the money is sitting with RBI itself and backed by the sovereign, which is essentially Government of India, right? So It is as safe as it gets. So if your salary is coming into you in E Rupee, it is much safer than it actually going into even your bank account, right?
Okay, good point. And I now have several questions which I'll keep toggling with you. Deepak, I'm coming to you, and before my question, in my words, what I understand from what you have been telling me, Avinash, is RBI, which is currently the bank of banks, will in some ways will become my and your bank, in a way.
Yes.
And the second
Yes.
point is that our large banks, which have a branch model, now a online model, passbooks, checkbooks, and internet payment gateways, RTGS, all that payment mechanisms, they will become in some ways the Google Pays, the Paytms, and the other payment wallets. So the question to you, Deepak, will my E Rupee get me any interest मतलब कुछ पैसा तो मिलेगा ना इफ इट्स इन द अकाउंट के. ऐसा तो नहीं कि सरकार ने अपने कॉस्ट भी कम कर दिए और मेरी जेब भी काट देगी.
So I think currently the way it's envisioned and the way they've talked about it is that the interest will not be given on the E Rupee aspect, and that primarily has to do with the fact that I think the way RBI is looking at it, right, is that this is not going to replace something which in our view is a system which is
नहीं
anyways
Deepak,
very powerful.
your audio wasn't clear. Pardon me, you'll have to repeat. Are you saying that there will be no interest on the E Rupee? Not
There'll
even
be no
savings
interest.
rate?
No, currently that's not what is envisioned in the E
So
Rupee.
that means there cannot be a fixed deposit of a E Rupee.
Currently in the pilot, and obviously as we go along things could change, but at the current stage it's not there. And to add to
why would that be? What is the logic behind it?
See, I mean, obviously there could be different rationale, but if I were to stab a guess at it, right, the way it is, like you said, right, earlier RBI was the banker to the banks or the banker to the government, right? If RBI today is also going to offer an interest rate, right, all of us would like to bank with RBI and not bank with an intermediary bank. I mean, everybody wants to bank with the big boss. See,
Okay.
the idea.
No, I think we are getting some audio disturbance. Deepak, we are getting some audio disturbance. I'll request my PCR to try and fix that. But Avinash, you were raising your hand.
Yeah.
You want to come in before I ask you a point?
Yes, yes. I just like to add to what Deepak was saying. Why do you get an interest on your savings account? Right? You get an interest because the bank goes ahead and lends that money to somebody else. Right? And let's say your fixed your savings account interest rate is 6%, the bank is lending say 10%, and they make a spread of 4%. Right? Now, so they are taking some risk with your money. They manage that risk as per RBI norms and their norms, but there is a risk. RBI is not into the business of lending money, right?
So tell me, Avinash, one second. RBI is not in the business of lending money to individuals, but it creates the environment, it handles interest rates. So the second question I have, agar mere deposit pe if there is no interest, then what about my loans? Will my loans also be zero interest?
सिद्धार्थ, सभी को मुकम्मल जहां नहीं मिलता, किसी को जमीन नहीं मिलती, किसी को आसमान नहीं मिलता. ये उम्मीद कर रहे हैं that we should get the best of all the worlds. I should have the cake and eat it too. Not possible, sir, because
No, but if you do not
want the
give me interest,
fungibility
one second. Let's debate this interest point. I find this the most interesting. I mean, we still haven't passed a law on Islamic banking where interest is considered haram. That's a separate thing. I'm not commenting about that. But boss, मेरा पैसा है, मुझे इंटरेस्ट चाहिए, आप इंटरेस्ट नहीं देंगे, आप ई रूपी कर रहे हैं, सब कुछ डिजिटल कर रहे हैं, तो मतलब ये तो समझ नहीं आ रहा है. बट लोन पे आप इंटरेस्ट लेंगे, यू विल चार्ज मी इंटरेस्ट ऑन माय लोन. व्हाई? ये तो गलत बात है.
So the idea is that this is not replacing the money that you would have traditionally kept in your fixed deposits or your interest-bearing instruments, right? This is trying to replace
So then why do
cash,
it? No, very good answer.
notes,
Very good answer.
the notes and coins.
So we start, come back to the starting point of this conversation. So why do the E Rupee? Who benefits? This is primarily to save the currency printing and management cost. It doesn't mean much for you and me.
No, it does, because as I mentioned in my opening remarks, the reasons why people continue to transact in cash is very myriad, right? So you and I are not the PGs in some ways because we possibly have moved away from cash a lot. I have moved away from cash completely, right? Most of the times my wallet doesn't have a single naya paisa or single rupee. I just have my cards, I have my mobile phone, and that's it, right? But the Aam Aadmi, as you said, the common man, still continues to carry cash in his or her purse or wallet, right? How can that behavior be changed? The idea is to move. UPI has moved us to a less cash economy, right? UPI, demonetization, GST, etc. Now the RBI and the government of India are trying to move us closer to a cashless society, right? Would that happen 100%? We don't know, and how much time it will take. But the endeavor is to reduce the use of paper and basically coins, right? And in that effort, they are trying to do this.
Deepak, I don't know if you want to comment on that, but the question I had for you, so far as I have understood from both of you, it's not a replacement for crypto. We have nothing to do with that. It's also not replacing the traditional basis of banking, which is the manner in which money is saved and lent. It's basically a more efficient system of transaction, and at the central bank level, as the issuer of our currency, there is a significant saving. So this kind of digital e-rupee is only an entry in some ways in ledgers, and these are electronic ledgers. It holds the same value, but what does it do for the existing intermediary industry that has been developed? And there are many. There are pretty much a dozen payment wallets that one can talk about. There must be many more, many a startup being thought about by someone. What happens to them if the pilot becomes like a widespread initiative?
So I think, Siddharth, the way we are looking at it, right, and the way industry is looking at it, is that it's not taking anything away from the industry. Like Avinash also mentioned, it is adding to a new kind of system, a payment, like we said, right, E Rupee, which ensures that several of the issues that exist, like you mentioned, with crypto or with the currency in your pocket, right, are eliminated. The speed at which transactions happen, right, and you're able to move money increases the speed of commerce. So let me take an example. Today, if you pay your local grocer in currency notes, right, he will go deposit it to a bank, and then that bank will lend it to somebody, and that's the speed at which money will move. But if that happens at the drop of a second, right, instantly, just imagine the speed of the transactions which would happen 2 days later have moved to today. And that is how commerce is going to increase. I think E-Rupee is going to spawn its own set of use cases, own set of startups that are going to latch onto this opportunity. And this pilot is just the beginning of that.
That's a fair point, and I'm almost tempted to say that this will perhaps be the real-time settlement in some ways, like you were pointing out. Okay, as we wind down this conversation, a couple of questions broadly about comparing what India, the RBI, is doing with the global experience in this regard. Most of us know that in the last decade or so, and particularly after demonetization, there's been a big jump. Now, there are lots of issues as far as the companies, the participants and the stakeholders are concerned, viability, margins and all of that. We are not doing a B2B conversation. Compare this in terms of where India stands globally with regard to similar experiments or pilots, pilot projects.
So let me start that, and people can add to it. If you look at what's happened in Africa, right, CBDCs have really brought down wherever they have been, implemented well, the cost of remittances big time. Okay, remittances today have huge inefficiencies, right? And even remittances that happen, from India outside, and more importantly, from outside India to India, right? Let's say just like UPI is now accepted in Singapore and Dubai in multiple places. Let's say the Indian e-rupee starts to get accepted elsewhere. You'll start seeing people, directly be able to use their, Indian e-rupee in those markets, right? And to be able to do a lot of remittances directly without intermediaries. So the more
So for example, the Gulf, where our fellow Indians work in significant numbers, and that is the largest personal non-corporate remittance inflow route for India. What you are telling our viewers is that imagine a future where all the money where those fellow countrymen are using and paying sort of charges on the transfer of their money to their families, to their parents, to their wives, son, that will could be done by the e-rupee, and the transaction cost for such people would be negligible or nil.
Nil, because RBI seems to be very confident in the cause, and they are not wanting to charge anything. So even if there are intermediaries who facilitate it, the cost will come down dramatically, right? So what is today X might come down to say 0.1x or 0.05x, right? So 5-10%, that's it. So that's
Atmanirbhar, so in some ways, Deepak, Atmanirbhar money transfer also. We have our Rupee card as well. So a Atmanirbhar ecosystem with a Atmanirbhar money transfer.
Absolutely. I think Avinash has hit the nail on its head when he talked about global remittances. India today is poised to, I think, receive about $100 billion in the current fiscal year from Indians residing overseas. That is one aspect, like, there's going to be a reduction in the cost of the fees and then a reduction in time. If you just reduce the time from 3 days to an instant, right? You have just increased every dollar, right, which would have come $3 billion every day coming in, right? 3 days later, you've increased the remittances by 10% in the current year. And let's not forget the domestic remittance market, it is huge. Indians domestically that are settled in Bombay, in Bangalore, sending money to, let's say, their hometowns back, in different parts of the country. I think all of these costs, right, are going to get significantly reduced, eliminated. The time at which these remittances happen will see significant changes. And I think the ultimate beneficiaries are going to be the end consumers.
Well, since the ultimate beneficiaries, both of you, fintech entrepreneurs are telling our viewers will be the consumer, I just want to end this fascinating conversation, since we are out of time, with just one line, that famous line, baap bade na bhaiya, sabse bade, but I'll add, sabse bade E Rupee. I think that's the way we'll have to change and tweak that line. Thank you very much, Avinash and Deepak, for your time with us today. And you, the viewer, if you've been, thank you very much for watching. Do remember to like, share and subscribe to Business Today Television. I'll be back with more on another episode of Easynomics. Till then, goodbye.
Ramesh Bhai is a busy man these days. Even as political activity peaks around him, he is busy playing catch-up with his cotton crop. The seeds which should have been planted before Diwali were delayed for the ground.
8 घंटे में 8 से 12 बार बिजली की कटौती आती है, तब 3-4 किलोमीटर का जो पाइपलाइन है वो आप समझ सकते हैं कितनी दिक्कत होगी। ना शहर में बिजली कटती है, ना इंडस्ट्रीज में बिजली कटती है, ना कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर में बिजली कटती है। लेकिन ये हकीकत है, सरकार बड़ी बड़ी फेंकती है कि हम बिजली सरप्लस दे रहे हैं, लेकिन 8 घंटे में 10-12 बार बिजली कटती है। इतने लंबे अरसे के मेहनत के बाद कभी इसमें कोई ऐसा रोग भी आ जाता है और कभी भाव भी बहुत कम रहता है। तो कभी अति बारिश, जो ये है अभी कमोसमी बारिश अगर हुआ